everyone. So a few years ago, I was in my kitchen in Chelsea in Manhattan. How many of you know Chelsea, right? Okay, a lot of you, wow. And there I was on my Slack channel. I was at breakfast, talking with my team. My husband was there blogging, very calm, peaceful morning. And then all of a sudden, from our basement guest room, appear these two huge dudes. Like, who are they? And my husband said, oh, I'm so sorry. That's Armin and Shay. They both said, Guten Morgen. I said, okay, definitely not New Yorkers. I said, well, and they would be, they're leaders of the UBI movement in Switzerland. I said, oh, wow, that's so awesome, UBI. What's UBI? And they explained that UBI was universal basic income. I said, and that would be, so universal basic income, apparently, is when everyone gets a certain amount of money every month without actually having to work for it. So it's guaranteed income. And I thought to myself, well, guaranteed income, you don't have to work for it. How much are we talking about here? And my husband chimed in, about $1,000 or say 1,000 euros a month. And then I thought, well, gosh, if you got that basic income, I said, well, why would you get that? I said, it's to pay for things like basic food and clothing and a place to live. I said, okay, well, so you can get all of your expenses paid without having to work for it. Why wouldn't everybody just be sloths? Because this would be for everybody. This is universal. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. Everybody would get it. I thought, okay, well, this is really odd. It's like, wouldn't we all become sloths? Wouldn't we watch trashy TV and, Traumhochzeit, does that still exist here? These trashy television programs doing absolutely nothing? I had to learn more. Just didn't make sense to me. So I started to talk to people and watch videos and turn to experts. I wanted to know what was the deal with UBI, because they were really excited about it. And the more I read, the more interesting I think it got. It turns out that technology, the kinds of technology that you've been learning about today, has a lot to do with why people are advocating for UBI. So technology, like things like searching, because I think is unbelievable. The fact that you can extract data and input it wherever you want and save people thousands of hours of boring, tedious work, how fantastic is that for humanity? And I certainly know, as a tech entrepreneur, I founded now 8 different companies and enterprises. I know what technology can do, how quickly you can launch a company with very few folks on staff. We now use our video technology to power thousands of applications, and it doesn't cost a lot. In fact, technology is making everything cheaper. Technology is making food cheaper with vertical farms. You have 3D printed houses. You have knitting machines to make clothes cheaper. But why are things getting cheaper? Well, it's because it actually doesn't require humans to create and produce the work. You have machines to do it for you. But there's a problem there. Because if it doesn't require humans to do the work, then those humans aren't going to have a job and they're not going to have a paycheck to pay for their own food, clothing, and a place to live. And that's where UBI comes in. UBI is going to be the replacement paycheck so that folks are going to be guaranteed income regardless of whether they have a job. In fact, it turns out that jobs are, in the next 25 years, 47% of all jobs are going to be disappearing. Just think about that. Almost half of all jobs are going to be disappearing in the next 25 years. Look around. Half of you may not have a job. Think about your friends, your kids, your relatives. Half of all people may not have a job within just a couple of decades. And how are they going to pay for things like food, clothing, place to live? So UBI, guaranteed income. I know what you're all thinking. How are we possibly going to pay for UBI? Now, I'm not going to get into the details here. There are lots of different theories about how you can pay for it. Some folks are saying, look, we'll just cut a lot of the military, or those programs that now pay for things like welfare and housing. Those programs can actually go to UBI. Or maybe we'll even print money. That's even a thought. Or tax the rich more. There are lots of different theories. But I'm an entrepreneur, a founder. When we have an idea, we don't have to know exactly how it's going to proceed. We experiment with it. And we start with something, and if that works, then we'll go for it, and if it doesn't, we change course. We don't go from 0 to 100% overnight. That's how we build our products and services. So I wondered, were there experiments happening around the world? And then I found out that experiments were indeed happening all around us. And in fact, I just heard that in northern Germany, they're about to launch an experiment with UBI. In Kenya, they found out that when they had a UBI experiment, 90% of the folks who received UBI either bought livestock or they started a company. So this idea of entrepreneurship has been, I've heard time and time again, come up when there have been UBI experiments. And again, as a founder, I know how long it takes to start a company. So to have that time to experiment and to figure out your model, I think is fantastic for entrepreneurs. In Germany here, actually in Berlin, there's an experiment going on called Yes, thank you. And who knows about this Berlin experiment? Okay. So the way it works is that there's a lottery that goes on. Actually, it's crowdfunded. So what happens is that when the fund reaches about 12,000 euros a year, then they hold a completely random lottery, and everyone can participate, even you guys here. And then you get the basic income for a year. And what they found was amazing. They found that people who actually got the basic income, their health improved dramatically. When they were feeling ill, like serious conditions, all of a sudden, I guess that anxiety level went down and they were feeling much better. They did things like start companies, entrepreneurs. In fact, there was one woman who started a company it was a funeral oration business. And what she would do is she'd go around to funerals saying nice things about the recently deceased and get paid for it, right? Who knew that funeral oration could be a business? All of this talk about UBI made me think about my own life. See, I wasn't always a tech entrepreneur. I actually started off studying art history, like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance. And those guys had patrons, like the Medicis and Pope Julius II, that supported their work. I, unfortunately, was not as lucky. I did not have a patron, and I didn't have any particular talents, well, except maybe ping pong, but that wasn't actually going to pay the bills. So I had to figure out how I was actually going to make money once I graduated. So, like a lot of liberal arts majors, I decided to go to law school. Now, a lot of people, that's their passion and their dream, God bless them. I was not interested in the law. But I figured, hey, it'll support me. So I spent years and years in a profession that really didn't interest me. I wondered, was I alone? What about my friends and folks that are in my circle and friends of friends? Did they go through the same thing? Did they choose professions that they actually weren't interested in because they had to make money? So I decided to launch a survey. And I asked, if you were guaranteed I asked dollars, but euros every month for the rest of your life, would you have made different choices? So if you were guaranteed 1,000 euros every month for the rest of your life, would you have made different choices? In a few days, I got about 576 responses, right? And the responses were disheartening at the least. Time and time again, I heard of people who gave up their passions to pursue lives that they didn't want to pursue because they thought they had to make money. They would have become, they said, they had passions for being musicians and artists and opera singers and theater directors, and they gave it up to become things like bankers and lawyers and engineers. Again, no offense to those engineers out there and lawyers and bankers. There are those who wanted to pursue them and passions, and God bless them. Those were not these passions. How many of you, when you think about yourself, may have given up something that you had a dream about? Yeah? Hold on. Hello? Does this work? I don't know if this works. We can try it. Okay. Is that on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. So what was your dream?
Well, my dream was I did my bachelor's in political science because I was like a really socialist guy who wanted to change the world. So actually, I was like really naive and did something that was like coming from my heart. But then I decided, hey, actually I wanted to do medicine, but because I was already 2 years into my program, I wouldn't have gotten BAföG for my med studies. So I said, hey, I do my master's in economics and work in data science, and here I am.
And there are stories like that. Who else? Who else has given up a dream that they may have pursued had they had the money, the basic income? There were a number of folks whose hand went up. Okay, who has a hobby, like music? Are you a musician? Did you play music?
I don't play, I sing.
You sing?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you do that a lot when you were younger?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that if you maybe had that money, you would have maybe pursued singing?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because and I've heard that time and time again of people who were singers and who wanted to pursue singing, and you think about the world and how much we must have lost over these years. I think of when I think of UBI, I think of it being kind of like perhaps even powering a renaissance in a way. Right? Think about all those musicians and people who would have pursued medicine or been entrepreneurs, who just couldn't because they couldn't afford to do it. I also heard from people who would have spent more time with a family, who would have stayed home with the kids, or if they had a sick mother or a dying husband, they had to work and not spend time with their loved ones. I just wonder what this world would be like if we had UBI, and whether we could power our passions through this income. This world that we're creating with SearchInc and all these fantastic machine learning technologies, it's amazing how they can replace what humans usually do. People don't have to be toiling away at jobs just to work and earn money. But the question is, what do we do with it? How could we then spend the time to really focus on what we're passionate about? And how do we teach our kids to value things that they really want to do and not focus on going for the money? Those are the questions I'm curious about, and I hope that I've inspired you today to think about those questions as well. Thank you very much.